Want to know a story template I really hate? It's the one where a character is really trying to do something, but the universe conspires to make sure they fail miserably. I don't think I've ever seen it done correctly, and in this review, I'm going to expand on my problems with it. That being said, let's talk about Rugrats. Before Nick had SpongeBob or Hey Arnold, their first juggernaut of a franchise was this property. The original Rugrats series ran from 1991 to 2004, with not one but 3 movies along the way. They of course tried to Frankenstein the franchise with All Grown Up, but it didn't quite work out, so they just called for a reboot in 2021, which I hear is doing okay. So what does this show have to do with what I'm talking about? Well, they did the premise I just mentioned, and as you might have guessed, they didn't do it any favors. The episode in question is Silent Angelica, where they miraculously make an incredibly unsympathetic character very piteous. This episode starts out with Angelica about to have breakfast. When Drew pours her cereal into the wrong bowl, she goes to Charlotte to complain. But of course, she's in the middle of a business call. To see her dissatisfaction, Charlotte promises Angelica that if she remains quiet by the time she's done with the call, she'll buy her a present.
Cynthia luxury townhouse with patio umbrellas and the real jet spray jacuzzi and the working electric garage door opener?
Fine, but only if I don't hear another sound until I'm done. Not one little sound.
And since Angelica is a toddler, she takes this instruction literally and elects to go totally mute. Like legit, she doesn't talk until the very end. Interesting way to save on the voiceover budget. She goes back to the kitchen to pour her cereal into the bowl she wanted while Drew argues with Stu on whose turn it is to babysit. Once he's at the phone, he tells Angelica that the babies are coming over.
Hey, bro, I was gonna leave the rest of the kids with you while I took Dill to our Daddy and Me class, but if I sing that Happy Parachute song one more time, I think my head will explode.
Wait, so now you don't need Drew to babysit for you? In fact, why wasn't that the first thing you brought up? The setup here genuinely doesn't make sense to me. Get your shit sorted out before you submit the script. The babies greet Angelica when Chucky accidentally steps on one of her toys and breaks it. Also, I don't know why Chucky is with Stu, but I guess they forget that he's not actually a Pickles. When she doesn't yell or get angry with them, they think she's sick. After a bunch of pointless miscommunications, they drag Angelica to Drew to see what's wrong. Drew asks her to watch the babies while he and Stu fight over what to watch on TV, because of course he does. Angelica points to a toy car she wants, and he says he'll get it for her.
Shh! Honey, I'm expecting some important papers to be delivered. Can you answer the door when they come?
No problem, sweetness.
Yeah, we'll see about that. Angelica leads the babies into her playroom and tries to keep them busy by coloring a piece of paper that may or may not be important. While she reads her Cynthia catalog, she has a fantasy where she also doesn't talk. If that isn't commitment, then nothing is. She's quickly snapped out of it when the babies start dancing and playing loud music. She unplugs it, but Charlotte calls her over and reminds her to keep the noise down.
Hold on, Jonathan. Was that you making all that noise? Remember our deal, sweetie. One sound and no Cynthia townhouse.
Angelica, you said we could play. Yeah, we was having fun. Shh. Now, guys, you have to be nice to people when they're feeling sad. I think Angelica needs a friend today.
Is it seriously not registering with any of you that she's being quiet for a reason? Yeah, I know, they're babies, but you'd think Angelica explicitly shushing them would at least give them a hint that they shouldn't make any loud noises. Hell, I'm sure one of them heard Charlotte give Angelica that warning just now. Angelica tries to communicate to them that she has to be quiet in order to get a new dollhouse, but it doesn't seem to be getting through. The doorbell rings and Angelica is summoned by Drew.
Back, forth, and back, and forth, and back, and forth.
Pumpkin, would you please find out which of the babies is causing that racket?
If I had to vote between you, Diavolo, and Shao Kahn for who's the worst dad, I'd vote for you 3 times. Angelica answers the door, and it's the delivery guy Charlotte mentioned earlier. He needs a signature from Angelica's parents, but she still won't talk. Okay, one of the bigger missteps of the episode is how lacking of substance it is. It's not entertaining or engaging, it's just Angelica continuously being overwhelmed because the 2 unoccupied adults in the house can't be fucked to actually do what's expected of them. And you want to know what Angelica did to deserve this?
Nothing!
There's no humor or enjoyment to be found in a character receiving unwarranted torment. Even if Angelica is normally the antagonist, here she's only doing what she believes is correct. When the phone rings, Angelica takes the package inside and answers it. It turns out it's Charlotte's lawyer calling to say not to accept the business deal until she looks at the papers he mailed her. When Angelica goes to tell Charlotte, it's too late as she already accepted it. By the way, this never comes up again, making this scene totally pointless. Angelica checks on the babies who are being loud again, and conveniently enough, neither Drew nor Charlotte hear this. Okay, Drew I can sort of understand, but Charlotte is literally in the next room over. How is she just tuning this out now? By this point, Angelica's reached her limit.
There's nothing wrong with me, you dumb babies! I'm just trying to get some toys! You mean you wasn't sad?
Angelica?
What in the world is going on here? I was right in the middle of a very important phone call.
Princess, you should have come and gotten me before the babies made such a mess.
She tried to get your attention earlier and you just ignored her. Don't go acting like a good parent now. So, of course, Angelica loses out on her rewards as we see that she only had a few more seconds to go. Don't you just love it when you have your time wasted only for there to be no payoff whatsoever?
We're very proud of the way you're taking this, Princess.
Your emotional sensitivity is quite extraordinary for someone of your age.
Does this mean I still get the car and townhouse?
No.
And apparently we gotta stick it to Angelica one last time, which isn't a surprise because this episode sucks. If I could sum up Silent Angelica in one word, it'd be pointless. I legit don't know what the writing team was thinking when they penned this story, if you could even call it that. Miscommunications can be funny, but they're irritating as fuck when they can be resolved very easily. In fact, why didn't Angelica just whisper? I'm sure she knows how to do that. If you want to watch an episode where Angelica actually gets what's coming to her, watch Angelica Orders Out. Because not only do things happen in that episode, but her punishment is warranted since she ordered way too many desserts from a bakery and could have gotten the adults into serious legal trouble. As for this hunk of trash, I'm rating it a 3 out of 10. Is it the worst episode of Rugrats? Well, I haven't watched enough episodes to compare, but it's certainly the worst I've seen yet. It's uneventful and ungratifying in some of the worst ways possible. Next time, we'll take on something that'll actually be engaging. Spin-offs of popular properties are usually a crapshoot. Sometimes they'll be utterly worthless like Planet Sheen. Sometimes they'll be one of the best things a franchise has to offer like All Hail King Julian. And other times they'll be sleeper hits like The Patrick Star Show. Then we have All Grown Up. Remember in my Rugrats review how I said that this show was a last-ditch effort to keep the franchise alive? Well, apparently I wasn't too far off with that assertion because All Grown Up aired in 2003, while Rugrats was still in its final season. One thing I was wrong about, however, is how successful this show was, as it enjoyed a 5-year run, concluding in 2008 with 5 seasons to its name. I guess you could argue that its success largely came from brand recognition, but specifics don't really matter to shareholders now, do they? Now, while I did grow up watching this show, I don't remember it as vividly as I do with its contemporaries, namely Drake and Josh. And I think the premise of this show kind of works against it in that respect. The show is called All Grown Up, but the kids are middle schoolers for the most part, and that is certainly not what I consider being grown up. Despite that, the kids are all written to be way more mature than they actually are, or realistically would be. Before I spend all day rambling about the premise, I want to examine an episode from this show that always bothered me, and that is Izzy Or Isn't He, which deals with the concept of imaginary friends. The episode starts with Chucky talking about how he wants to run for school safety commissioner, given his past of being an agoraphobe. When they make note of the irony of the situation, we cut to Dee Dee and Stu.
What's the holdup?
Izzy overslept.
I thought the kids weren't allowed to have friends stay over on school nights.
Izzy's a different kind of friend. Stop doing that.
Different how?
He's Dill's new imaginary alien friend, and according to Chapter 7 of my book, I found it's best to encourage the existence of such friends.
Well, it's nice to see you two still suck at parenting. But really though, let's point out the problem here. Dill in this show is 10, and being 10 is definitely the age where you should be outgrowing imaginary friends. It'd be one thing if Dill was unpopular or he had an interest in creative writing, but he goes above and beyond with treating Izzy like a real person. At lunchtime, Dill introduces Izzy to his real friends. Tommy immediately placates Dill, as to be expected, and so do Phil and Lil. However, Chucky's the only one who doesn't play along.
A little advice, Dill? Having an imaginary friend after a certain age is something one should keep to oneself.
I'm down with that, safety boy. I put the imaginary friend thing to bed when I was like 8. Izzy's my imaginary alien friend.
You are really pushing your luck here. At gym class, they're playing basketball, and Dill's team is down 1, but he suggests using Izzy because of course he does. They win the game, and it looks like Izzy now has adoring fangirls. How is everyone just going with this like some hive mind? Does Dill have mind control powers now?
Izzy! Izzy! This is wicked fun! We should totally invite Izzy to the party Friday night! I wonder if he has a date to the fall formal.
What the fuck kind of a social life do you have? And wouldn't you know it, Izzy has become so popular that he gets invited to people's houses and parties. And no, we never get an explanation for why everyone just goes along with this Izzy bullshit. Later in study hall, Chucky gets detention with Izzy for passing notes.
Seriously, Chucky, you are at a 12, and I need you at a 2. Just chill.
How can I? The election's on Monday, and I'll be spending my last available campaign hours in detention. All because of Dill's dumb imaginary friend.
Imaginary alien friend?
Who happens to have feelings? Hello!
Yeah, so, if you couldn't tell, Chucky was arbitrarily made the antagonist of the episode, all for the horrific crime of not treating an imaginary friend like a real person. And you all know how much I love it when that happens. Chucky's opponent Amelia shows up and hands the table a book.
What? Is it about me? Is it bad?
Quiet little Amelia published your medical records, including x-rays and the latest breaking stitch count, 123.
How the fuck did she get a hold of those? Did you hang out with Jade West or something? Lil suggests Chucky mudsling her back, but he vows to win the election fair and square. Oh, but guess what? Now Izzy has a fucking campaign for the safety commissioner. Alright, either Dill spoke on his behalf just to spite Chucky, or the whole student body just decided to run a campaign for a fictional person. Either way, Dill was a shitty friend for even so much as entertaining this.
Would someone please explain how this Izzy thing got so out of control?
Stop stressing. When kids fill out ballots, they'll think twice about voting for someone who doesn't exist.
Those kids grew up to vote for Harambe in the 2016 general election. When Chucky gets sick of hearing about Izzy whenever he's around Dill, he goes to sit with Amelia. He tries to form an alliance with her to take down Izzy, but it turns out she drops out of the race to endorse him. Sure, why not?
What is wrong with people?
I was thinking the exact same thing. He tries giving a speech, aka talking sense into people to not vote for an imaginary person, but surprise of all surprises, everyone hates him for it. Later, he tries mowing his lawn with a riding mower, but it's clear he doesn't really know how to use it. He goes barreling down the street and crashes into the Pickles flower garden.
Why does everyone look so freaked? The roses aren't wrecked, just a little bent.
Chucky, you just ran over Izzy!
Good! Now maybe you can lay this fucking gimmick to rest with him. But not before they shame Chucky for murder or something.
I better check on Dill. I just want to be alone right now.
What the fuck are you so torn up about? You were on his side this whole time. How did Izzy's death affect you in any way? Chucky decides to talk to his dad about this.
Everyone's mad at me over something that's not even real. I don't get it.
Well, that's odd. If memory serves, you once had an imaginary friend, too. And he seemed real to you, just like Izzy seems real to Dill, your friends, and every kid within the tri-state area.
I was a baby.
There's no age limit on imagination, son.
Oh, look at that. Even Chaz doesn't give a fuck that his son is a public enemy. Also, Chucky's problem wasn't so much that Dill has an imaginary friend, but that he was practically being hazed into accepting something he didn't believe in. If Dill put a cap on the craze like he should have, Chucky probably wouldn't have cared so much. At any rate, Chucky goes to apologize to Dill, even though really it should be the other way around, while people drop off sympathy meals that Izzy apparently loved. When Chucky goes to school the next day, the only person who wants to be seen with him is Tammy. Chucky considers dropping out of the safety commissioner race now that everyone hates him, and while Tammy and Phil try to make up a relative of Izzy, no one is sold on it. So Tammy goes to Dill and demands he help Chucky. During Izzy's funeral, Dill gives a speech about pretty much saying that everyone needs to get over Izzy. Conveniently enough, they do it almost immediately.
Thanks for saving my butt, Dill.
What are friends for?
I can't believe this Izzy thing was all an act.
No, bro. That was the act. Izzy pulled through, but I had to get him out of the election. His ego was out of control. And mostly, I didn't want to share him anymore. Everyone else misses him now that he's gone. I missed him when he was here.
And the point of you continuing this for so long was... You know what? I guess it doesn't matter anymore. Dill admits to Chucky that Izzy's gonna make a full recovery, and their friendship is back to normal, I suppose. And that was Izzy or Isn't He? I think my biggest issue with the episode is that everything is so damn contrived. Dill having an imaginary friend at 10 years old is one thing, and in fact it's kind of in character for him, but having everyone just go along with it for no discernible reason only opens the door for what motivation everyone who isn't in the main circle has. The only thing we get is at the end when one of the students says she likes having Izzy around, but that's not good enough. What were they getting from Izzy's existence that Dill wasn't? And the fact that Chucky is treated like the bad guy for just being the most logical guy around makes this all the more obnoxious. Even if the kids tend to follow a herd mentality, you gotta make it more convincing than what we got here. I'm rating it a 4 out of 10. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen, but it's a stupid plot that relies solely on tormenting Chucky for doing literally nothing wrong. Hey, since we're on the trend of mid-2000s cartoons, let's examine another one today. Except here we'll be looking at one that's a lot more beloved than our last excursion. Faster's Home for Imaginary Friends. Man, the memories just come flooding back. I think a lot of us forget how successful this show was during its heyday, seeing as it ran for 6 seasons, and for quite some time you couldn't turn on Cartoon Network without hearing about it at least a few times. If I was forced to make a guess, the show's success largely came from relatability. After all, most of us had imaginary friends when we were kids, and we'd have loved to be able to incarnate them. Aside from that, the show was just competently made with good comedy and likable characters. However, it's important to remember that no show is without its flaws, and this one has a glaring one. One of the more recent criticisms Faster's has gotten in retrospect is Blue. Originally, he was conceived to just be a wilder side of Mac, but once Season 2 rolled around, he just turned into a plain old arrogant douche who incessantly let his selfishness get the better of him with no desire to mend his ways. In my Brack Show review, I mentioned that many cartoon friendships of this time period follow the dynamic of one friend is an asshole while the other just accepts it, and Blue and Mac's friendship might as well have been the figurehead for that. So much so that you'd think Terrence created Blue instead. There are many instances where Blue in particular was considered the worst part of an episode, but today I'm examining the Season 4 episode, I Only Have Surprise for You, which is fairly infamous in its own right, up there with the Bendy episode and the Goofball McGee episode. It starts out with Mac arriving at the house one day to see Blue on the phone. Mac notices that Blue is acting suspicious, but he won't say what's on his mind. When another imaginary friend tells Blue that he's almost finished with a project that he won't let Mac know about, it doesn't take long for Mac to get sent into a panic. Eventually, he tells Mr. Harriman that he thinks Blue is about to throw him a surprise party. Not a birthday party, though. In fact, he only throws surprise parties at the most inconvenient times so that Mac gets embarrassed. And we get a montage of it, so it's pretty clear that Mac's apprehension isn't misplaced.
Now you understand why I hate parties?
Indeed I do. Don't worry, Master Mac. You shall not be exposed to one under my watch.
Yeah, we'll see about that. Mac gives Harriman a hug that overstays its welcome, but his sense of security becomes unraveled rather fast. Then he accuses Eduardo and Coco of being accomplices of Blue. In fact, this whole episode is just Mac being paranoid about a potential surprise party. Does that sound fun? No? Well, you better get used to it, because that's all you're getting for the next 15 minutes. He tells Frankie not to make any cakes, peruses Madame Faster's shopping items, and even attacks Wilt.
Wilt, stop! Whoa! You can't throw me a Earth Day.
Yeah, I was just taking down these decorations, but you know, you're right, Mac. We should leave them up, because every day should be Earth Day. I'm gonna go find stuff to recycle.
Is there any question why he was everyone's favorite character? Mac is starting to think he was wrong, but when a clown shows up, he gets suspicious again. He verbally abuses the clown until it's revealed that he's actually an imaginary friend seeking residence. So, I guess we're not supposed to like Mac here? But why? Sure, he's acting out, but he has a valid reason for it. Before anyone suggests that Mac just goes home to avoid the party, just remember that Blue was throwing surprises at any given location, rendering Mac totally unsafe. Mac's friend Goo shows up and flat out says she's here for a party.
I mean, there's no party.
But you said there was.
Me? No, I said I'm here to see Artie. There he is.
Hi, Goo.
I created him.
I'm Artie. I'm 4 years old.
They grow up so fast.
Okay, that has plot device written all over it. But while I'm here, it's a good moment to highlight just how much this episode can't carry itself. At this point, it's indisputable that there's going to be a party later. They set up that Blue loves pranking Mac with surprise parties, Mac spends the whole episode on edge, and now we have at least 2 characters trying to keep a secret from Mac, with one even giving it away. How much longer are we expected to sit through this with the same level of suspense? Mac does eventually decide to leave, and Goo tells everyone that their cover's blown. However, it turns out Mac only pretended to leave and was spying on them through the ceiling. How he got in there, I'm not going to question. He decides that it's time for action and plans to sabotage the party before they can humiliate him. He pours yeast into the cake mix, gets Eduardo and Wilt to mess up their decorations, and even traps Blue in a net.
You'll never stop me, Blue. No one will.
Scissors, over here, help! Don't worry, Blue, I'll get something to cut you down.
Alright, that was kind of funny. After a while, it looks like Mac successfully saved his ass from a party.
Is there anything we can salvage whatsoever? That does it then. Master Mac has completely ruined the party.
That's right.
What about you, B-Team?
Huh?
We had no problems at all. Cake's done, presents wrapped, decorations look fantastic.
Great job, guys.
What? Where the fuck did they come from? Oh, well, I guess it doesn't matter, because Mac manages to beat them to the library where the backup party was meant to take place and ruins that too. It's getting to be about that time.
Mac, this party isn't for you.
Surprise! Whoa, what the heck happened here?
I didn't... I was 4 years old.
Oh, would you look at that? The party was for Artie. So the whole house turns on Mac, and he feels bad and wants to make it up to Artie. Blue and Mac redo the library and get the house together for the party again, where we see Mac be a clown. After his act, he asks Artie what he thinks, and it turns out Madame Foster was Artie all along, and that there actually was a surprise party for Mac due for the day. Do you even fucking care anymore? Because I don't.
You planned 2 parties all along.
Uh-huh.
Knowing I'd destroy them both, then feel so bad I'd throw my own surprise party and completely humiliate myself.
Uh-huh.
And everybody in the house was in on it.
Everyone except Ed.
I just go where they tell me to.
Face it, Mac. I'll always be 1 step ahead of you.
I suppose that's only true in the world of bad writing, which is exactly where this hunk of shit should stay. It's definitely a 2 out of 10. Much like the last episode I reviewed, it sets up a scenario where Mac is realistically sympathetic, then arbitrarily decides to make him antagonistic. The only difference here is that we get a double twist ending, and a very bad one at that. Some good jokes here and there don't save this episode from being frustrating and painfully predictable. And once again, it's a great case study for why the fuck Mac still even continues to put up with Blue. Because if I was in his position, I'd go to therapy and make his ass foot the bill. So, where does this episode rank between Everyone Knows It's Bendy and Imposter's Home for Make-Em-Up Pals? Honestly, I'd put it smack dab in the middle, because the latter just does what the Bendy episode did, but tortures Frankie instead, and it at least had a positive ending. This, though, Mac spends the whole episode in a frenzy and has nothing to show for it, just never-ending stress from start to finish. I'm in a creative slump right now, so to get out of it, I think I'll have a light snack and examine an episode from some mid-2000s cartoon. And I think I've got just the perfect one. Does anyone remember a little show called My Life as a Teenage Robot? If you don't, I'll debrief ya. Teenage Robot debuted in summer 2003 and was a superhero comedy, sort of comparable to the Powerpuff Girls, which would conclude its run the following year. It stars Jenny Wakeman, aka XJ9, a robot who was designed as a teenage girl by her mom as she tries to navigate coexisting with humans while also saving the Earth from various dangers. While it didn't reach SpongeBob or Fairly Odd Parents levels of fame, it had its share of popularity and is still regarded to this day as a cult classic. Now, it did technically run until 2009, but it's not all it seems. See, the show was actually cancelled in 2005 in its second season, and season 3 didn't get approved until 2008. Most people don't know that because Nickelodeon gave this show the finger by airing the third and final season on Nicktoons, which is primarily known for being the network's graveyard. Scummy executive decisions aside, most of the show was decent, but there's one episode that many fans point to as their least favorite, and it's known only as I Was A Preschool Dropout. And it's one I don't have very positive memories of either. But hey, that was years ago, so let's go revisit it with a more critical eye and see if I can better articulate what this episode failed to do. It starts out with Brad riding his bike and singing badly. Pleasant way to open an episode, wouldn't you say? He runs into Jenny at school and explains that he was singing a song from 6 years ago, to which she replies that she doesn't remember it because she was built 5 years ago. The principal conveniently overhears this and calls some government agent that has her relocated to preschool.
Don't you worry about nothing, little girl. We're taking you to a place that's all cotton candy. Yeah, nothing but cotton candy clouds and all the cookies you can eat.
But I don't eat.
Where are they taking her?
Where her kind belong. Kindergarten.
Kindergarten?
Okay, never mind. Apparently the episode title is a big fat lie because she's off to kindergarten. How did no one pick up on that during production? Jenny arrives at the kindergarten and quite clearly explains that while she was built 5 years ago, she has the mental capabilities of a teenager. And like all badly written characters, the teacher doesn't believe her for no other reason other than plot convenience.
But only very special achievers are promoted to higher grade levels.
Well, how special are we talking about? As special as this? Or how about this? This special enough for you?
No, my dear. The walking, crawling thing was just a metaphor. No, what we need to see is special achievement in the classroom. If you're as advanced for your age as you claim, I'm sure it'll become apparent in no time.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was her speaking in complete sentences and improvisationally transmuting into multiple things not convincing enough that she might not need to prove anything else to you? I hate to be repetitious, but if you have to make other characters stupid in order for your story to work, then it's not a good story. It just becomes irritating. The kids laugh at her for being different, as to be expected, and then the teacher starts going over the alphabet with them. When Jenny tries to answer her questions, she gets overshadowed by the others. When a kid gets stuck on the letter O, Jenny starts listing off several O words, making the kid cry.
In your face. What a baby.
Jenny, would you please come here?
Finally, I'm so out of here. See you babies later. I told you I didn't belong here.
I should say not. You have a long way to go just to catch up to the rest of the class. You haven't even learned the very first rule of kindergarten. It's not about who's right or wrong. It's trying our best to get along.
I thought you said that she just has to prove her intelligence and then she's square. Now you're just trying to be difficult. The kids are sent to play pretend, and the kids treat her like shit because of course they do.
So, what are we making believe?
We're playing house. I'm the mommy, and Kevin is the daddy. Gerald can be the smelly uncle, and Alex can be the pool boy.
Who should I be?
You? You can be the dog.
The dog? I'm not gonna be the dog.
I don't want to be the pool boy. I'll be the robot. Dude, danger, danger.
Does that count as racism? I'm just gonna say yes. We get a song about how Alex is the robot, which is equal parts catchy and annoying. Okay, mostly annoying. Primarily because they drag this fucking thing out for almost a minute. Thankfully, it's mercy killed when Jenny cries out that this is stupid, getting her in trouble yet again. The teacher thinks that Jenny will make friends with the others during recess, even though a smart person would see that a teenage girl obviously is going to have trouble socializing with 5-year-olds. And wouldn't you know it, they all react to her with the same acrimony as before, with Alex throwing a ball at the back of her head. The teacher's surprisingly cool with it though, since she only glares at Jenny when she gets angry about it. Gerald is nice enough to give her a mud pie, But when they throw a ball at her and knock her face into it, she gets sent over the edge. She plays a game of dodgeball by using her robot parts to bash all the kids in nearly no time at all. Honestly, I shouldn't be okay with kids getting pummeled, but they were all dicks to her, so I have no pity for them. The teacher angrily approaches her, despite idly letting the class gang up on her all this time, only for the kids to suddenly think she's cool. Maybe she did hit them too hard, who knows. But at least now she's finally getting a break.
And that's how the leopard got his spots. The end. Wow, they look so harmless when they're asleep.
You did a very good job with story time, Jenny. Don't you want to take a nap with the rest of the class?
Me? I'm a high school student. A nap in the middle of the day sounds pretty good.
Alright, that was a good one. However, her nap is interrupted when Nora barges in and pretty much restates what Jenny said in the beginning.
There has been an error in the educational system. As these diagrams illustrate, XJ9 was made 5 years ago, but she was designed as a teenager.
I see. Well, in that case, you can go.
What? But that's exactly what I said.
Yes, dear, but you didn't have diagrams.
Oh, that excuses it, except that it doesn't. So Jenny gives a heartfelt goodbye to the kids and is dragged away screaming and crying like a little baby because I guess the writers felt she hadn't been humiliated enough. And that was I Was A Preschool Dropout. I have but one question. What the hell was the point of all this? It's like the writing team made a joke about this premise during a pitch meeting and somehow thought it would make for a good episode. Well, newsflash, it didn't. While it doesn't do anything horrifically bad or frustrating, it's such a nothing sandwich that served absolutely no purpose other than to solidify that Jenny is technically 5 years old, which could have been gotten across in much better ways than this crap. You want this episode done well? Check out Family Guy's Tales of a Third Grade Nothing. That episode not only justifies its existence, but it's also infinitely more entertaining. As for this, it's an easy 5 out of 10. It's the very definition of run-of-the-mill, and it has no place in a show that is normally action-packed and outgoing. King of the Hill. What do I even say about this show? Well, one thing I can say about it is that it's kind of an acquired taste. If you were a teenager with undiagnosed ADHD who'd been too trained on the in-your-face humor of Family Guy like myself, then you probably had a hard time getting into King of the Hill since it's less boisterous and more story-driven. But that said, I can't say I hated this show either. And now that I'm grown, I can certainly appreciate its toolset a lot more. Much of King of the Hill's humor is based in politics, where Hank, an old-fashioned, fastidious conservative, is reacting to a world that's always challenging his personal philosophies. This could have easily turned out bad, like making it the Carter Pewterschmidt show. But instead, the team made it so Hank would realize at the end of each episode that he needs to compromise some of his beliefs to accept that not everything that's different is bad. However, sometimes they did fuck this up, and Babby Goes Nuts is one of those times. And wouldn't you know it, it's an episode about bullying, the archetype which has unilaterally always been botched in some capacity. This episode starts out with Connie hosting a sleepover at her house. Since her parents are the typical strict Asian stereotype, it turns out to be incredibly lame. Connie notices Babby was voyeuring on them, but invites him over so he can spice things up. Yeah, don't try this at home, kids. Babby dances for them until Chain and his entourage show up. He picks on Babby some, but before they can get into a fight, Ken comes in and makes them take it outside. Chain shoves Babby to the ground and forces him to eat dirt. Babby tells Hank that Chain beat him up, and Hank tells him that he has to start standing up for himself.
There is only one person who can fight your battles for you. And I know you don't want to hear this, but that person is you.
Look at me. This can't fight.
Well, then take a boxing course at the YMCA. You can learn anything at the Y. That's where I learned how to fight. You know, that's also where I learned to swim.
Huh, maybe this show's more relatable than I thought. Babby goes to sign up for boxing lessons, but the class is full, so instead he's put in a women's self-defense class. The instructor tries to kick him out, but once he explains himself, she lets him stay. The instructor tells everyone how to kick a man in the groin. I should mention that women's self-defense classes teach more than just groin shots, especially since that's the only thing Babby learns from this class, and you'll see how that's a problem later.
Give me your purse, now!
That's my purse.
Don't be afraid to shout it. That's my purse! Try it again.
That's my purse! I don't know you!
I'm probably in the minority here, but I find the way the instructor shouts that phrase a bit funnier than how Babby says it. The next day, Babby is chatting with Connie at school, and Shane comes back to bully Babby. He's about to make him eat dirt again, but Babby uses his newfound tactic. He brags to Peggy and Hank about how he won the fight, but mentions that he has detention tomorrow. Thankfully, Hank isn't mad about it and instead rewards him for standing his ground. Babby goes to detention, and it's made apparent that he's made enemies of a few students. They circle him, and Babby gives them groin shots. So yeah, they're trying to show that Babby's becoming a bit too accustomed to violence, particularly with how he inflicts some vigilante justice on another bully. Hank and Peggy are called in by the principal, who tells them that Babby's been getting into a lot of fights at school. Hank's not bothered by it at all, since he's happy Babby's protecting himself, as if his own son's well-being is somehow expendable to him. No, what actually upsets him is that Babby is kicking people in the groin, because it's not manly, even though groin shots are definitely not something that is exclusively taught to women. Even the damn principal thinks that's the bigger problem here. Hank decides to teach Babby how to fight like a man.
This, Bobby, is the belt line. You never, ever hit below that. Always above, never below. Cassius Clay never hit below the belt.
But, Dad, if I'm in a fight with someone who wants me to literally eat dirt, you're telling me I shouldn't do the one thing that's gonna save me. Boom!
You learned a move in a woman's self-defense class. You are not a woman.
But it works.
This is pretty much the main problem with the episode. Hank is chastising and shaming Babby for defending himself the only way he knows how. His fighting lessons aren't even effective since he's trying to instill into Babby that he should fight fairly, even though there aren't any rules in a street fight. Fighting fairly in that setting can literally get you killed, since there's a chance the other guy is carrying a weapon, like brass knuckles, a nightstick, a knife, hell, maybe even a gun. If someone tries to run up on you, and you really don't know how to fight, either hit them in the groin or distract them long enough so you can safely escape. It's important to remember that you aren't Batman, and you're not going to win a fight just because you're the good guy. Even if you do know how to fight, it's not going to be easy, because there are thugs out there who do have actual training in the fighting arts, and that makes them even deadlier criminals, and they sure as fuck don't care what happens to you. Here's my advice. Learn to fight, and teach your kids to fight once they're able to. Even the most rudimentary knowledge on fighting can save your life. And if you're getting up there in age, it's never too late. There are classes that teach senior citizens how to fight. So, after Hank horribly teaches Babby how to take a hit, Babby gets irritated and kicks Hank in the groin so hard that he passes out. Apparently, Hank's ballsack is swollen and he's miffed at Babby for it.
But when you hit me in the nose...
You mean the nose above your belt? If I remember correctly, and your shot below my belt hasn't affected my memory, I was teaching you how to fight above the belt.
No, you were teaching him how to get killed by having unrealistic expectations on what street fights are going to be like. But continue to shame your son for protecting himself. I'm sure you'll sound smart eventually. Babby is grounded indefinitely while Hank vents to his friends.
I wish I had a son to kick me in the nuts.
Be careful what you wish for.
So, is Dale Bill's bastard son? That'd make for an interesting character arc, I'd say. Babby goes to visit Connie, and Con walks in while they're catching up. Con says he found Babby kicking Hank in the nards funny, and says that he doesn't have to accept Hank's punishment for him while he's injured. Babby proceeds to play his Game Boy in front of Hank and refuses to relinquish it to him upon being commanded to. Peggy steps in and wrestles Babby to the ground to get the Game Boy back. Okay, how are the neighbors there? Do they have some alarm that sounds off when Babby is fighting his parents? Peggy gets the Game Boy back, but Babby goes for a groin shot.
Hey!
That's right, Bobby. I believe you will find that I have no testicles. Where's your secret weapon now, huh?
What kind of plot armor is that? Kicking a woman in the groin still hurts. It's not like they have titanium down there. It'd be like punching a man in the pectoral and having him be unfazed because he doesn't have tits. You're still hitting a person, and getting hit is gonna hurt no matter what gender you are. Babby surrenders, but Peggy isn't done and wrestles him down again until Hank tells her to stop.
Well, I guess next time you won't try to take on your old man.
What are you so proud about? You had to get Mom to fight your battle for you. That's worse than me kicking below the belt.
Yeah, it's not so fun when someone doesn't fight fair, is it?
That's the lesson here. Don't fight dirty because you won't like it if someone else fought dirty. Which would be perfect advice if Babby was cheating during a karate tournament, but since he isn't, this is the stupidest advice in all of history. Like I said before, if you find yourself in a confrontation, there's no wrong way to protect yourself because street fights have no rules. Whatever, that was Babby Goes Nuts. Fuck everything about it. The "that's my purse" meme is merely a crutch for the episode, because it's otherwise light on the entertainment value. The story is horrendous. It essentially puts Babby in the wrong for defending himself in a manner that is deemed ladylike, and not because he may have been using his training irresponsibly. And it puts Hank in the right for trying to figuratively disarm his son. Like, what do you think Babby's gonna take away from this? By the time he goes back to school, he's gonna get accosted by some bullies, he'll likely feel too intimidated by Hank's influence to go for a groin shot, and since that's literally all he knows, he'll get his ass beat viciously as payback for all the trouble he caused them. But hey, at least he's not fighting like a girl, right? What really sucks is that this episode didn't need to be this bad. Just have Babby use his fighting arts for selfish pride and not protection, and have him learn to use violence responsibly. It'd be way better than whatever the fuck we got here. I'm rating this episode a 2 out of 10. It's boring, poorly written, and has a shitty message.
It seems like just yesterday that I was reviewing Babby Goes Nuts and the idiotic message it was trying to spread. It's also been quite a long time since I did any companion pieces, so I think I'll do one today. One show I revisited recently is The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Fresh Prince needs no introduction. If you were a kid in the 90s, or spent your evenings watching Nick at Night, you're familiar with this show, and likely have very positive memories of it. Not only was Will Smith's character likable, but so was the rest of the cast. And that's not even getting into the importance of it being a sitcom that follows an affluent black family. Now, what Fresh Prince is often remembered for these days is the comedy, and to be frank, it's nothing short of comedic gold. However, a lot of people don't recognize how much heart it actually has. We all know the episode Papa's Got a Brand New Excuse, which explores the topic of absent parents. That's not the episode we're going over. Nah, instead, I'm examining Bullets Over Bel-Air, which talks about being the victim of a violent crime. This episode starts with Will walking in on Ashley watching cartoons with Nikki. Nikki starts asking a bunch of questions, while Ashley remarks that he's just at that age of burning curiosity. At first, this scene felt pointless to me, but it actually does come back later. You'll see what I mean. The next day, we see Will and Carlton preparing for a camping trip. Uncle Phil then comes down to show them a map he made.
Now, I've charted our trails. We're going to hike in just below Limestone Falls. Then we're going to raft down the Rocky Point. And we're going to spend our last night at Two Arches.
Them arches better not be golden.
Don't worry. On this trip, it's just us and the elements. We're going to be roughing it like frontiersmen.
Oh, incidentally, sir, the limousine will be here to pick you up at dawn.
I'd make a joke, but I'm definitely the same way. Will laments on how Carlton is overpacking and then accidentally opens the raft they were going to take. Since the raft broke Carlton's lamp, they go to the ATM so Will can reimburse him. However, on their way back home, Will and Carlton get mugged at gunpoint.
Let's have the money. Come on, come on. All right, hey, it's cool, dude. Carlton, give him the money. Hey, look, that's all we got, man. That's it. I got some more in my wallet.
Take your hands out of your pockets! Take your hands out of your pockets!
You know, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm sure you will, but this might have been the first time a sitcom has shown someone getting shot. Of course, you don't get to see the actual carnage, but it helps build up tension since you don't know which of them took the bullet. Great directing there. At the hospital, it's revealed that Will was the one who got shot, and the family's all in a panic.
I just want to make sure he's going to be comfortable.
We're doing everything we can for him.
Well, those white sheets can get so dingy. Don't you have any nice pastels?
That's not our major concern at this point. Excuse me.
Well, what about television? He's not going to just have basic cable, is he?
Well, at least Hillary has her priorities in order. Phil returns and says that Will is in stable condition and that the bullet was safely removed. The family all visit Will, and he is all in good spirits, probably due to the sedatives he's clearly on. He tells a bunch of jokes, and they all laugh along, just glad that he's doing okay. Carlton, however, is not so amused. He's absolutely ridden with guilt over the fact that Will took a bullet for him. When he steps outside, Phil tries to go talk to him.
Son, where are you going?
I don't know. I'm going for a walk.
Carlton, it's after midnight. I don't need something to happen to you, too.
Well, there's nothing you can do about it. These things just happen, right?
Carlton, I know you're upset. You've been through a very traumatic experience. Now, if you just calm down, we can talk about this rationally.
You're always in control, aren't you? Always know what to do, always know what to say.
Well, you know what gets me? The police aren't even gonna find this guy, and even if they do, so what? He'll be out in the streets in 6 months.
It's not going to happen.
Come on, Dad. It's happened to people you've put away.
The legal system isn't perfect.
Go talk to Will about our legal system. It's such a joke. People aren't even afraid of it.
Carlton, look, I'm frustrated too. But as a judge, I have to have faith in it, no matter how much I might want to go out and knock some heads. Eventually, the system will come through.
I'm all grown up, Dad. Don't tell me any more fairy tales.
Personally, this is why having Will take the bullet instead of Carlton was a good move. If Carlton got shot, he would have just been even more of a wimp. But instead, he watched his cousin nearly die, and now realizes that he has to toughen up because the supposed protectors he's told to rely on won't be there for him. Moreover, Phil, who usually has the answers he needs, doesn't have any worthwhile insight this time around. All he has is what he's used to, which isn't enough for Carlton anymore. The family leaves, but Will's girlfriend Lisa stays with him overnight. Her presence here is important. Not only is she able to see that his humor is just to ease the pain, but she's there to wake him up when he's having a night terror about the shooting. The following morning, during breakfast, Carlton visits Will by himself. He's still feeling guilty about everything, and even goes as far as to say he owes him his life. After he lets out some anger, Will asks him for a hug. When he goes for one, Will notices something heavy in Carlton's jacket pocket. Carlton reveals that he bought a gun.
Carlton, are you out of your mind, man? You walking around carrying a gun? What do you think you're gonna do with that?
It's for protection.
Carlton, whoa, man, what do you think it's that easy to just shoot somebody?
I'll close my eyes.
So what, you don't think I'm mad? Huh? I'm laying up in this hospital an inch away from being paralyzed? You don't think I want to get up out this bed and go catch that?
It's not gonna happen again, not to me.
Carlton, I understand that you're scared, man. But the world can be a scary place. You just gotta learn how to deal with it, all right?
Yeah, well, I found my way.
That's not you, man. That's them.
This is important. They actually have all their bases covered here. The reality in protecting yourself is that violence is never easy. Even just punching someone is a nerve-wracking experience. Rather than saying something stupid like kicking someone in the dick is for girls or that shooting a mugger isn't fighting fair, they bring up the fact that Carlton is an innocent kid, and that he certainly doesn't have the chaps to shoot another person, even if it's deserved. Furthermore, Carlton is not portrayed as the bad guy. He's just angry and doesn't want to be in this frightening situation again. To be a little more personal here, I do possess a jackknife for protection, thanks to a close call I had some odd years ago. Thankfully, I've never had to use it, but even I question if I'm big enough to do so at times. I guess what I'm trying to say is, don't rush to violence. It's important to learn to fight, but learn to intimidate first. Will demands Carlton give him the gun. When he does, Will checks to see if it's loaded, only for bullets to fall out. Will breaks down, realizing that Carlton actually was intending to shoot someone. And that was bullets over Bel-Air. With all that said, I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, despite the powerful moments here, the episode does struggle with some structural issues. Mostly with how it feels like they were trying to pad out the runtime. The beginning's a little slow, there's a fair amount of dead air, and the second half goes by just a bit too quickly. But hey, a C is still a passing grade. I love Will and Carlton's respective performances. Will acts like you'd think he'd act in this situation, and Carlton does the same. They also know how to balance drama with comedy, as neither one overpowers the other here. I definitely recommend revisiting this show, because chances are you'll be pleasantly surprised by what you get.